We're here from Bringing Up Book Lovers. Today, homeschooling veteran and author Phyllis Wheeler
and homeschooling mom Sarah Boble are here to talk to you about The Letter for the King by Tonke Dragt. So we're actually doing something different today and our next review because these two books, we can't interview the authors. The author of this book was actually originally written in Dutch and written in, I think, 1960. And so the author, she's still alive, but she's like 90 and she doesn't speak English. And the book was translated into English in the UK in 2013. And you may have heard of it because there's apparently a Netflix series based on this book, which I heard is not very good, but the book is really, really good. So Phyllis and I wanted to talk about a couple of international bestsellers today and next time. So yeah. So
our summer project, something different.
Something different.
Yeah, these are not recent books, but they're pretty cool.
And they're just not as well known here because they're not originally from here. And also, so the main character for this book is 14. So in our library, it was categorized as teen fiction, whereas Phyllis and I both agreed that it's actually perfect reading level and content for a middle grades reader. It's a little bit long, but like I feel like my 9-year-old could definitely read this and hang with the story and understand everything in it. Whereas, you know, there's even some middle grades books that have like a 12-year-old main character that's not true of. So we want to talk about this.
Actually, I think he is closer to 16, maybe 15 or something. But anyway, it's still easily comprehensible to a middle grade student, I'm sure.
Yeah. Oh, you're right. 16. Sorry. So quick summary. So Thierry is the main character and he's a 16-year-old knight to be. And the book starts out, he and some of his knight to be friends is kind of like a part of a ritual for becoming a knight are spending a whole night keeping vigil, and they're not supposed to leave. They're really not supposed to talk. And he gets approached by a man who he doesn't know. And the man brings him a mission. And there's a letter that needs to be delivered to a king that is in the next kingdom over, which is over some treacherous mountains. And Thierry's mission, his quest, is to take the letter over there without knowing who it's from, what the contents are, whose side he's really on. And yeah, so it's definitely a quest tale with the chivalry and knighthood aspect. Am I missing anything? That's kind of like the big picture.
Yeah. Yep, that's what it is. Yep.
Okay.
Okay, let's see what we got. Some questions here. So, does it pass the good story test?
What do you think, since I've done a lot of talking?
I think it does. I think there's just a whole lot of conflict. You know, it goes from peril to peril. There's some very tremendously bad guys, and there's also some tremendously good guys. So it's yeah, it's refreshing in a lot of ways.
Mm-hmm.
And then, you know, he does have a character arc that is satisfactory, and the ending is satisfactory or satisfying, I should say.
Mm-hmm. Yep. I agree.
So the themes, what are they? So I'm thinking maybe it has to do with virtues, like so he's a knight in training, and there's a code of behavior for knights that. So this is in not a historical setting. It's in kind of a medieval land somewhere or other. It isn't really a fantasy world because there's no unicorns or anything odd, no magic.
Yeah.
But it's just simply not set in a place that you could identify as being, you know, somewhere on this earth. However, it's this code of behavior expected of knights is, I assume it's probably has historical roots, and you keep your word, you're honest, you're loyal, you're faithful, and so on. So Thierry goes, well, he adheres to this code, even though it's costly, and it's a good thing.
Yeah.
And what are some other themes?
I think perseverance is especially because there's definitely times where he feels like he's not going to make it, like he can't do it along his quest, and where it seems like you said, there's lots of obstacles and they're just kind of coming at him a little bit too hard for being a young man. So perseverance, and we also, I think, talked about friendship, which was a little bit tricky because he's not supposed to tell anybody what his mission is, and he's, you kind of get the feeling he's supposed to do it alone, but in the end he's not really able to do it alone, so he has to open himself up to friendship and like the loyalty, not just of himself, like him being loyal, but other people being loyal to him. So yeah, I thought it was probably one of my favorite things. I always like when there's good friendships in a story. So there was definitely a good friendship in this story.
Yeah. And there's two good kings in it, these kings are just really wonderful role models, like for your child reading the book, it's just a very fatherly, wise type of person. There's also a bad king, but we never even see him. He's just fomenting conflict off the edges of things.
There's also a pretty sweet map inside that I referred to it a few times when I was, to see where he was on his quest and which way he was going to pass through the mountains. And there were some interesting characters, which I kind of thought were fun. Like there was the fool and the hermit, and I wanted to see where they were on the map. So that was a nice thing to have there as well. It's pretty complex. She definitely created her own world, like you said, even though it's not otherworldly in feeling. So I enjoyed the map and seeing following the story along on it too.
One thing that really struck me when he was going through these perils and things. So he was carrying this letter, but he couldn't tell anybody that that's what it was. But he could kind of infer that this particular other knight had given him a task. So everybody kind of knew that much, that he had a task from Sir what's his name, who died right after giving the task to Thierry, and they knew that he had died. So everybody just kind of accepts it. They're sort of like, oh, okay, you got this mission and you're not going to tell me what it is, and I'm going to have to help you, and I might even have to go way out of my way to help you, but I'm just going to be satisfied with not knowing what it is. That really that surprised me because and it's a good thing. It was because they all adhere to this nightly code of conduct.
Yeah.
So it would, he's honor bound not to say what it is, and they accept it.
Some of them, not all of them, but some of them knew the reputation of the knight that gave him the task, and he was an honorable person, and were willing to give Thierry the benefit of the doubt because of the one who gave him the mission. But definitely not everyone.
Yeah. Right. Yeah. And there's some people who, especially at the beginning when Thierry had not established his reputation at all, he was just a scruffy young man, like, what do you mean you need my help? Who are you? So, well, let's see. The character development. How did that character arc go? So he started out as just a young man, right? Who was uh, very hopeful about becoming a knight the next day. And, he's on this vigil, and then he hears this voice through the window, like, I forget what the voice said, but something like, I need help. I need help.
Mhm.
So, so he decides to help the voice, knowing that that scuttles his chance of becoming a knight in the morning,
Mhm.
which, well, that takes some character. I mean, I guess it's part of that knightly code of conduct that if somebody asks you for help, you need to give it.
Yeah.
Right? So, and then the guy with the voice took him to the knight who was dying and handed off the letter. So that's how that happened.
Yeah. He definitely grew a lot. I mean, I think a big part of his development wasn't just kind of his like growing up emotionally, but also he, through the challenges, he became the kind of person that he wanted to be, like a knight. So there was that as far as character development goes. And his, sense of knowing how to be with people, knowing how to be a friend, knowing how to be, part of a team in some ways when he meets up with that group of other knights who ended up being, friendly people. And just not being so frightened. I wouldn't have called him scared at any point, but there were times where he questioned, his judgment and what he should do, and that kind of phased out more as he got further along on his quest and was more used to adopting the role of a knight. So I really
Right.
enjoyed it. I thought like somebody, people often say stuff like ask, usually parents of boys, like, oh, my son finished reading, Lord of the Rings, and what's another great book that he can read. And I thought this is another great book that a boy like that would enjoy and could read,
Yeah.
or a girl, so.
Right. It's a little bit long. So you
Mm-hmm.
have to have a reader who's, let's see, it's 500 pages. You have to have a reader who's not intimidated by a thicker book.
Yeah.
But on the other hand, you could just say, okay, well, why don't you read 20 pages today? What do you think? Because once they get into it, I expect they can keep going.
Yeah, you can definitely get sucked into the story, I think. The
Right.
characters are so interesting, even the ones that you only meet for a few minutes, for a few pages are fun. And I also like that, since it's a kind of a medieval time and there's knights and fighting, it's not, and people die during these fighting. It's not gory though, and it's just, I wouldn't say it's matter of fact, but it's not like explicit, and it doesn't take away, or it's not described in a scary way or gruesome way. So I appreciated that for a younger reader as well.
Yeah. So do we feel his vulnerability? I think we do.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Even if only because of his youth while he's on the quest, pretty much everybody else he meets is like way older and more experienced than him. And he doesn't try to hide it, or
Right.
yeah.
And he's got all these doubts going through his head. So we just see his doubts. They're right there. So
Yeah.
yeah, I think he's an engaging main character.
Mm-hmm.
Mhm. So let's see. Memorable scenes.
I enjoyed his encounter with the fool. It's just one of those characters that, like I said, you only meet him for a few pages and don't really know why he's there, but that's what he was. The man was a fool, and he fed him. He gave him food, and I think it was the first person that Thierry met that on the quest that he kind of had to. He learned what people are more complicated than they seem, and so I kind of read that and I was like, why is that there? And then I just realized I just had enjoyed reading it. So that probably, I don't know, it's not, I wouldn't call it like turning point of any kind, but it's something that I remember.
You mean that this is near the guy who shows up near the end and also at the beginning? If you're
Yeah.
talking about that guy.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, yeah, I guess I wouldn't have called him a fool.
I think he calls him that in the book.
Oh, I see. Yeah, he's just a special needs person.
Yeah.
Who's handled with compassion. So,
yeah,
that's nice. Yeah.
How about you? Memorable event or memorable scene?
Well, there's one thing that they did not get to do that kind of bummed me out, and that was that, they got all the way to the city of the king who gets the letter, right? And it's another hour or two to the ocean. They didn't go there.
Yeah.
Come on, aren't you tourists? What's the deal with you? They didn't go. They said, "Oh no, we got to get back. Our other king needs us."
Yeah. It's the self-denial.
Yeah. But they did get some stunning views of the mountains. So
Yeah.
I like that description. Um, okay, overall likes and dislikes.
I like the whole story. I liked the characters. I liked that, their violence wasn't violent. And yeah, there's nothing that I didn't like about the book at all. I really enjoyed reading it personally. And it would take my kid a long time to finish it. But if she treats it like she does, Harry Potter, it won't actually, she'll kind of get sucked in and she'll finish it.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, I agree. I really liked it. I enjoyed reading it. Had no trouble just plowing on through it.
Yeah.
So, is there anything potentially controversial for homeschoolers?
I don't think so. I mean, not to me. There were zero red flags or even, pink flags. Yeah.
Right. Yeah. It's a story from 1960 after all.
That's true. Yeah. I heard that after the book was published in the Netherlands, like a bunch of people started naming their kid Thierry. Like this was like kind of like the Harry Potter of the Netherlands, the 60s. So
really? Oh,
yeah,
that's cool.
it's a cool name,
Yeah. It's spelled Tiuri, in case you're wondering. It's got a really good core, this good solid core to this book. Yeah, it really, I think in our modern world, we never think of the word virtue. What does that mean?
Yeah.
Virtue. But this book really does show, it shows what virtue is.
Yeah.
It does. So
I'm not sure where the Netflix show went badly. I haven't watched it, but if you've seen the Netflix show and didn't like it, don't let that be a reason to not read the book because the book is apparently much better.
yeah, I can imagine where somebody from this century might kind of mess that up.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay. And so how is it redemptive? That's our last question.
Well, I don't know. Do we give spoilers? Do we do spoilers? The ending itself is pretty redemptive.
Yeah, we should just talk generally. Yeah, the ending. Yeah, it has a redemptive ending. I guess we could say that.
Yeah. That doesn't spoil too much.
No. Yeah, if a book has a bad ending, I don't want to read it. So.
Yeah, that's true. I want to end on a bad note. And it's a kid's book too, so yeah.
Yeah, it's a good So in other words, we highly endorse this book.
Yes, it's a great summer read for you or your kids.
Right.
Or you to read aloud to your kids or with your kids.
Start. So since we can't have Tonke Dragt here with us to tell us about her life, we turned to Wikipedia and found out some things about her. So she was born in 1930 in the Dutch East Indies, that is Jakarta in Indonesia. Her father was a businessman, an insurance agent. They were from the Netherlands. So she and her sisters were interested in writing, and they had their own house library. But then guess what? Pretty soon the Second World War came along. And Tonke and her mother and her two sisters were stuck in a concentration camp by the Japanese. And the Wikipedia article is kind of weirdly blasé about it. It says the situation in the camp was adverse. Shortages of food and other essentials were prevalent. Well, I don't know about what you know about these camps the Japanese had, but I thought they were much worse than that. But maybe this one wasn't so bad because it was for women or because they were Dutch nationals, not Americans, or I don't know what. Anyway, so they had some, difficulties being in this camp during the war, but it really had more to do with not having enough to eat. Mm-hmm. And she and her friend actually had enough time to get bored. They were bored, so they decided to write a novel. And they didn't have any paper, so they got some secondhand paper or paper used on one side and also some toilet paper. And that's where they wrote their novel. And then pretty soon the war ended and they were released from this camp and they all went back to the Netherlands, where Tonke went to school to become an artist and then an art teacher. And she's written a number of books, not too many of which have been translated into English. And she is still alive. So I guess she's 91, something like that. And we have not really actually tried to contact her, but I don't think she speaks English. So there you have it.
Yep.
The story of her life.
She wrote this book that we talked about when she was 32, which is pretty impressive, I think.
Yeah. So. And it won all kinds of awards over there in Europe. So people loved this book, or maybe they still do.
Yeah.
I bet they still do. Until finally it was translated into English in the UK in 2013. Now that's, kind of late, if you ask me.
Yeah.
But so it's been around a little bit, but it hasn't really become well known here. But it should be, don't you think?
I think, yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, apparently the people who created the Netflix show thought so too. So
yeah,
maybe it is, and you and I are just a little out of the loop or something. But I don't know anyone who's, read it. So
I think it's a perfect book for homeschoolers. For many homeschoolers, it's just what they're looking for.
Yeah.
It's a boys' book. It's about virtues. It portrays virtues. It's got plenty of action.
Yeah.
Good book. Yeah.
So next time you're at the library, check out A Letter for the King by, would you like to say her name?
Tonke Dragt.
There you go. Yes. Check it out. We love it. And if you'd like to get a regular email every time we post a new episode, please sign up on the link that's below somewhere. So next time. Bye.